Welcome to month 3 of the DevOps lead track. Months 1 and 2 gave you the measurement system, and the human layer underneath it, DORA metrics, OCR, value stream mapping, team topologies, hiring, on-call, charter. Month 3 is the operational layer that turns all of that into shipped software, the release model you pick per service, the change management process that gates what goes out, the freeze policy that protects your highest stakes windows, and the rollback decision tree your on-call will read at 2 in the morning. This session has one job: ship boring releases. A boring release is not a slow release. It is a release where the risk was named in advance, the rollback was already designed, and the only thing left to decide is when to push the button. The riskiest thing about most releases today is not the code. It is the meeting you held before the code went out. By the end of this session, you will have a release program mapped to your service tiers, a lightweight change record that replaces your change advisory board for 90% of changes, a freeze and exception policy that is enforceable in tooling rather than honor system, and a rollback decision tree plus a stakeholder comms plan you can read under pressure. Here is how the 4 hours are structured. Hour 1 establishes the release model vocabulary. 4 models: canary, blue-green, feature flags, and dark launch, and a tier-to-model map that tells you which service gets which model by default. Without a default, you argue about release process on every single change. With a default, you only argue about exceptions. Hour 2 replaces the change advisory board with a lightweight change record. We cover the 4 CAB anti-patterns, the PR template that fits on one page, the workflow that branches by tier, and the narrow case where a CAB is still the right answer. Hour 3 is freeze and exception policy. 2 freeze patterns, calendar-based and error budget-based, and the exception path that has to work or the policy dies. Enforced in tooling, not in a Slack message. Hour 4 covers the rollback decision tree and stakeholder comms. 3 questions, 6 outcomes, a data incompatibility branch that teams forget, and comms templates written in calm hours rather than drafted at 2 in the morning. 4 release models, and each one trades a different risk for a different cost. The lead's job is to match the model to the service tier, not to use the same model everywhere. Canary: roll new code to 10% of traffic, then 25, then 50, then 100 with an automated analysis gate at every step. The cost is infrastructure complexity and a small blast radius for the duration of the canary. The win is that any defect is exposed at 10% of traffic, not 100. Best for Tier 1 revenue services with a measurable service level indicator. Blue-green: provision a full standby copy of production, switch traffic atomically when ready, drain the old version with a 5-minute grace. The cost is doubled infrastructure during the queued-over window. The win is sub-30-second rollback for Tier 0. Life safety or payment services where a bad release is a regulatory event, not just an incident. Feature flags: deploy the code dark, toggle the feature on per cohort with a provider like Launch Darkly, Unleash, or Open Feature. The cost is code complexity and flag debt. The win is decoupling deploy from release, and a kill switch that is a single toggle. Best for user-facing features where rolling back the code is not enough. You also have to roll back the user experience. Dark launch: run the new code path in shadow alongside the old, compare results, promote when the shadow path has been proven. The cost is duplication of compute and the difficulty of building meaningful comparison traffic. The win is safe evaluation for algorithm rewrites. Pricing, ranking, fraud detection, where the cost of being wrong is silent and large. Pick the model that matches the failure cost of the service, not the one your team likes the most. The release program lives or dies by tier discipline. Without a default mapping, every release turns into a fresh argument. With one, you only argue about exceptions. Tier 0, payment, identity, life safety, gets blue-green plus a feature flag for stateful paths. Rollback target under 30 seconds. Tier 1, catalog, checkout, the revenue path gets canary with automated analysis in Argo rollouts. Rollback target under 90 seconds. Tier 2, internal tools, reporting, operations, dashboards, gets a rolling deploy with a health gate. Rollback target, under 5 minutes. Tier 3, batch jobs, analytics, dev experiments, gets a direct deploy in an off-hours window. Rollback target, under 15 minutes. Your job as the lead is to publish this table, freeze it for the quarter, and refuse exceptions without a written justification. Tier drift is how Canary turns into, we deployed it directly on Friday because it was urgent. Once you let that pattern in, the program is gone. Canary works because wait steps plus analysis gates mean a defect is exposed at 10% of traffic, not 100. Argo rollouts makes the whole thing declarative. The wait steps, 10% for 10 minutes to establish an error rate and latency baseline, 25% for 15 minutes to expose saturation and dependency behavior, 50% for 15 minutes to hit a full mix of user cohorts, 100% hold, then scale down old replicas. The auto-abort rule, error rate greater than 1.5 times baseline or 99th percentile latency greater than 1 3 times baseline at any step, triggers an automatic rollback without paging anyone. This is the rule that makes Canary safe. If your Canary does not auto-abort, it is not a Canary, it is a slow rollout. The analysis template signals, success rate, computed as the rate of non-500 responses over total requests, threshold 99.5%. Latency P99, computed with histogram quantile on the Canary pod label, with an absolute threshold set per service. And one business signal, checkout success rate, cart creates, login success. So the service level indicator does not miss a silent regression that hurts revenue without hurting latency. The most common failure mode, missing the business signal. If your Canary only watches infrastructure metrics, you will ship a release that causes every customer who hits a particular code path to retry, and your error rate will not move because the retries eventually succeed. Use these two models when Canary is too slow or when rolling back the code is not enough. You also have to roll back the user experience. Blue-green for Tier 0 hot swap with sub-30-second rollback. Mechanism. Green stack runs idle, ingress or DNS or service mesh route flips atomically, and blue is drained with a 5-minute grace before scaling to 0. The watch-outs. Database migrations must be backward compatible in both directions. Sticky sessions need to drain or terminate cleanly during the switch, and the cost is double infrastructure during the queued-over window. Schedule it. Feature flags for decoupling deploy from release. Mechanism. Ship the code dark with the default state off in production and explicit cohort opt-in, and wire a kill switch into every code path that reads the flag. The watch-outs. Flag debt is real. Every flag that survives 60 days has a removal ticket. Default on versus default off must be chosen deliberately and documented, and flag evaluation in hot paths needs to be cached. The cost is code complexity. The win is operational simplicity when something goes wrong. The combination is more common than the either-or. Tier 0 payment services often run blue-green at the infrastructure level and feature flags at the user experience level. The blue-green handles infrastructure rollback. The flag handles the new payment method logic that may need to be killed without redeployment. The Change Advisory Board exists to reduce risk. The data from the DORA program and Accelerate says traditional CAB does not reduce risk, it just adds friction. 4 anti-patterns show how. The 30-minute rubber stamp, half an hour of meeting to approve 31-line config changes. The decision is looks fine, ship it. The tell, the agenda lists 30 or more changes. The meeting ends 5 minutes early. If the meeting is consistently ending early, the meeting has no content. Approval by appearance. Risk judged by how complex the change looks, not how the change is measured. Typo fixes get blocked. Multi-service refactors get waved through. The tell. Ask the room to name the last rejected change and its reason. Long silence is diagnostic. The always open emergency door. The emergency path is used for 80% of changes because the regular path is too slow. The tell, more emergency forms filed in the first quarter than regular ones. At that point, the regular path is the special path and the emergency path is the default. Lessons not learned. The same kind of change gets rejected one week and approved the next. No memory, no loop. The tell. Nobody in the room can tell you what was rejected last week or why. If there is no institutional memory, every meeting starts from zero. DORA finding is direct. External approval boards do not correlate with stability, but they do correlate with lower throughput. Peer review on a pull request outperforms the CAB on both axes for any change where the feedback loop is fast. The replacement for the CAB form is a PR template that fits on one page and is reviewed by the people closest to the code. The template fields: a one-line change summary, the service tier from 0 to 3, the risk level low, medium, or high, with a one-sentence reason whether the change is customer visible, the rollback plan in 2 sentences, a link to the CI test run, the reviewer name and the schedule now, off hours, or freeze exception with a link if it is an exception. The design rules: it has to fit on one screen. If it scrolls, cut a field. A non-engineer has to be able to read it, risk and rollback in plain English. No comment box, every value is structured. Reviewer required by tier, not by vibes. Tier 0 and Tier 1 high-risk changes need a named reviewer. Auto-merge for Tier 2 and Tier 3 low-risk after CI is green. And it lives in Git, not the ticketing system. The shift in mental model: the reviewer is not reviewing line by line. The reviewer is confirming that the analysis is appropriate to the risk. The change record is the artifact, the PR diff is the evidence, and the merge is the decision. Branching by tier and risk means reviewer effort is proportional to potential blast radius. A Tier 3 typo fix does not pay the same tax as a Tier 0 payment change. Tier 3 low risk, PR template CI green auto merge. No human reviewer required. The change record exists for audit only. Tier 2 standard, PR template 1 peer review CI green merge. Rolling deploy with a health gate. Tier 1 revenue, PR template 1 reviewer CI green canary plus automated analysis. The analysis template auto aborts on regression. That is what protects you, not the review. Tier 0 critical, PR template 2 reviewers CI green scheduled window blue-green queued over. The high-risk overlay applies on top of any tier. Lead approval plus a named comms on call before merge. The reviewer requirement is added, not swapped. No silent overrides. If the change touches a payment path during a freeze, the freeze exception path applies on top of the tier workflow. The layers stack. They do not replace each other. CAB is the wrong tool for code changes that have fast feedback. It is the right tool for changes where feedback is slow, irreversible, or distributed across owners. Do not use a CAB for code changes flowing through CI to a service with SLOs. Config changes that an analysis gate can detect. Routine releases that fit the tier's release model. Changes a peer reviewer can evaluate in 10 minutes. Anything where rollback is fast and cheap. Do use a CAB for cross-cutting infrastructure changes, Kubernetes upgrades, mesh rollouts, shared platform refactors, vendor and SaaS migrations, payment processors, identity providers, anything where the contract spans external teams. Regulatory changes with sign-off requirements, PCI, GDPR, HIPAA. Schema migrations that cannot be rolled back forward only. Multi-team coordination windows where no single owner can decide. The principle is this: the CAB exists to coordinate decisions that span multiple owners with slow feedback loops. It does not exist to gate individual code commits. If your CAB is reviewing pull requests, it is doing the wrong job, and the cost of the meeting is paid in delivery latency with no compensating stability benefit. Two patterns both have a place and both need a real exception path. The first urgent fix kills any policy that forces a choice between shipping illegally or breaking the rule. Calendar freeze. Trigger is a known high traffic or low staffing window. 24 hours before and after Black Friday, public holiday corridors, end of quarter, board week, audit week, customer known event windows, known product launches, marketing-driven traffic peaks. The owner is the lead, who publishes the annual calendar so the team can plan around it. Error budget freeze. Trigger is service level indicator burn rate over threshold. A Tier 1 service has burned more than 75% of its monthly error budget. The freeze is auto-applied, no human decision needed. It lifts when the budget recovers or the month rolls. And it only freezes the affected tier, not every service in the organization. The owner is the monitoring stack plus an Argo CD app project sync window. Exception path. Trigger is a hotfix or business-critical need during a freeze. Two named roles can grant, the lead and a peer, so the lead being unreachable does not block the path. The decision SLA is under 30 minutes. The request is one paragraph. What, why, rollback. And every exception is logged to an audit directory for quarterly review. The most important rule on this slide. If your exception SLA is under 30 minutes, your lead must be reachable in under 30 minutes during a freeze. Name a peer with override authority. Do not promise an SLA you cannot keep. The first time it is missed, the exception process is dead and the next emergency goes around it. Enforce the freeze with tooling, not a polite Slack message. 3 layers: app project sync window, CI gate on release branches, and an audit log of every grant. Layer 1, app project sync window. The example shows a deny window for the last week of November, 168 hours, all production apps, manual sync set to false so the freeze is a hard stop. Argo CD will refuse to sync applications into the affected clusters during that window. The freeze is enforced by the deployment platform itself, not by a policy document. Layer 2, CI gate. A GitHub action checks a freeze calendar file in the repository. If the change targets a release branch during a freeze window, the CI job fails with a link to the exception process. The change author has to either delay the change or file the exception through the right channel. There is no path through CI during a freeze that does not go through the exception flow. Layer 3, audit log. Every exception granted creates a commit in the freeze exceptions directory of the repository. The commit captures who, what, why, rollback plan, and timestamp. Quarterly review by the team, not just the lead. The post-freeze review asks 3 questions. Were the freezes useful? Did exceptions outnumber the rule? And what should next year's calendar and SLO thresholds look like? If 0 exceptions were needed, the freeze was correctly scoped. If exceptions outnumbered the regular path, the scope was wrong, trim the affected tiers, or shorten the window. The most common failure mode here is exception by Slack DM. If the exception path is not friction-free in the legitimate case, every emergency goes through the CEO or around the policy entirely. Make the right thing easy. This tree is designed to be read at 2 in the morning by a stressed on-call engineer. 3 questions, 6 outcomes. The data incompatibility branch is the one teams forget, so pay attention to it. Start. A release-related incident. First question, is the defect new? If yes, the previous version was fine, this release introduced it. The answer is rollback. If no, the defect existed before this release, and the new code path merely exposed it. Proceed to the second question. Second question, is the schema change forward only? If yes, and the new release has written data in the new format, rolling back is unsafe. You would corrupt or lose that data. The answer is roll forward with a hotfix. Rollback is not an option. If no, the schema is backward compatible. Proceed to the third question. Third question, is this a latent bug exposed by load? If yes, the bug was always there, your new traffic pattern just hit it. The answer is mitigate. Toggle the flag off, scale up, shed load. The fix is operational, not a code rollback. If no, and you do not yet know what is happening, investigate. Break further releases while you figure it out. Do not roll forward, do not roll back, do not pretend you know. The trap at the bottom, if data has been written in the new format, rollback is unsafe. Forward-only schema migrations always need a hotfix path. Check this first, before any other decision. because rolling back over a forward-only schema is the kind of mistake that turns a 1-hour incident into a 1-week data recovery project.
Templates written in calm hours, not drafted at 2 in the morning. Cadence matches severity. Voice rules are concrete. List the banned phrases. Do not gesture at be honest. T+0. Detection. Internal engineering channel only. 1 line. Investigating symptom on service. Severity to be determined. No external comms yet. The instinct to send a customer-facing message immediately is wrong. You do not yet know enough. T+15. Acknowledgement. Always sent, even if root cause is unclear. A status page post for severity 1 and 2. An internal exec ping for severity 1. The text. We are aware of symptom. Team is engaged. Acknowledge that you are looking at it. Do not claim you know what it is. T+30. Update or holding. Severity 1. Every 15 minutes until resolved. Severity 2. Every 30 minutes. Severity 3. Hourly. A hold message, still investigating, is valid. Silence is not. Customers and executives can absorb a holding message. They cannot absorb silence, because silence reads as either ignorance or indifference. Resolution plus post-mortem promise. A customer-facing summary in plain English. A promise of a post-mortem within 5 business days, and the discipline to actually deliver it. A promised post-mortem that never lands is worse than no promise. The banned phrases. We have identified the issue when you have not. This is the phrase that gets teams sued. Will be resolved shortly, without a number. Vague timelines destroy trust. A small subset of customers, when it is more than 1%. If it is 1 in 5, just say so. Out of an abundance of caution, when caution was the actual cause. This phrase concedes that your caution process failed, which is true, but you should not volunteer it in customer comms. Channels by audience. Internal engineering goes to chat. Internal executives get chat plus an email summary. Customer success gets a ping plus a brief. Customers get status page with email for severity 1. BISTEC Mark Team. 18 services across 4 product engagements. Wednesday 45-minute TAB approves roughly 30 changes per call by inertia. First quarter, 3 release-related incidents, 2 of which were rolled forward when they should have been rolled back. Before the change, 30 changes per 45-minute meeting equals 90 seconds per change on average. 90% rubber stamp, 10% reject by vibes. Argo rollouts running in 2 of 18 services. Emergency path used for 60% of changes. No memory of past decisions. Every meeting starts fresh. Lead time bottlenecked at the meeting boundary. After the change, Tier 2 and 3 auto-merge. Tier 1 canary with automated analysis. Tier 0 2 reviewer plus scheduled blue-green window. Argo rollouts in 14 of 18 services within 2 quarters. Wednesday meeting cut to 15 minutes monthly for CAB-worthy items only. Audit log of every exception. Quarterly review. Lead time gated by CI, not by a meeting. The outcomes. Lead time for change dropped from 3.5 days to 6 hours, down 93%. Change fail rate dropped from 14% to 9%, a 5-point reduction. Releases per week went from 1.2 to 11, a 9 times increase. CAB hours per month dropped from 3 hours to 15 minutes, down 92%. The lesson. The Change Advisory Board was not removed because it was useless. It was removed because it was doing the wrong job.